Okay, let's jump right into this forensic case file. Today, we're putting on our investigative business analyst hats to examine one of the most deeply counterintuitive, almost unbelievable business strategies on the planet: luxury brand equity protection. We are looking at a system where some of the absolute most prestigious companies on Earth do something that sounds completely insane to the average consumer. They deliberately destroy their own finished, premium products, and they don't do it by accident, they do it by design.
Take a look at this. In July 2018, Burberry's annual report revealed a staggering figure: £28.6 million. Now, this wasn't a profit margin, it wasn't an acquisition or some massive new marketing budget. This was the exact financial value of perfectly good unsold clothes, accessories, and perfume that the company deliberately set on fire in a single year. To put that into perspective, that is roughly $38 million literally turned to ash.
In this explainer, we'll quickly cover the exclusivity bonfire, the danger of discounting, the forensics of artificial scarcity, the Birkin asset model, and finally, the end of destruction.
All right, Section 1, the exclusivity bonfire.
So, when this story broke, the public rightfully saw a £28.6 million environmental catastrophe. But forensic business analysts? Well, they saw a ruthless, highly effective mechanism designed to ensure that a luxury brand's products never, ever become accessible to the masses. You see, in the luxury world, the perception of the brand is actually way more valuable than the physical product itself. Luxury brands often overproduce simply to ensure their VIP customers never have to see an out-of-stock notification. But that overproduction creates a huge liability. If those unsold trench coats end up sitting at an outlet mall for 70% off, the brand suddenly becomes accessible. And in the analytical assessment of luxury equity, accessible is basically just a synonym for worthless.
Now, what's really interesting here is the escalation of Burberry's burn rate over 5 years. Back in 2014, they destroyed £11 million in stock. By 2018, that number had nearly tripled to £28.6 million. Over that 5-year span, they basically created a massive £90 million pile of ash. But here is the really crazy calculated dissonance. Right in the middle of all this, in 2017, they were actually named a leader in the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. I know, right? They claimed that thermal recovery, which basically means capturing energy from the fires, made it completely fine. But investigative environmentalists quickly pointed out that the carbon footprint of manufacturing luxury garments only to immediately incinerate them is just a net catastrophe. Let's move on to Section 2, the danger of discounting.
This brilliantly illustrates a massive strategic divide in the business world. Normal retail liquidates excess inventory to salvage short-term revenue, right? Like if you have way too many sweaters, you put them on sale. Simple. But luxury retail destroys excess to permanently eliminate the threat of secondary prices. For luxury brands, taking a short-term revenue loss means absolutely nothing compared to protecting long-term brand equity.
So if you're wondering, why on earth can't they just mark the items down? Consider this. A discounted luxury bag isn't a bargain. It's a contradiction. If your customer pays £2,000 for a coat and then sees it a month later for £400, you have permanently eroded their trust. You're literally training your own buyers to wait for sales. And worse, liquidating stock feeds the unauthorized gray market. If genuine bags start showing up on the internet for 40% less than the boutique price, the brand's entire global pricing story just collapses. Every cheap sale is essentially evidence that the brand's premium simply isn't real. Which brings us to Section 3, Forensics of Artificial Scarcity.
If we look closely at the corporate filings, we can uncover the exact contractual and financial indicators that prove this was systematic. Forensic accountants don't just go out looking for bonfires, they look for inventory write-downs that are cleverly disguised as waste management. An abnormal destruction ratio, meaning writing off more than 2 to 3% of total inventory, signals deliberate overproduction, just to guarantee VIP stock buffers. We also see what are called mitigation clauses. These are actual literal contracts demanding that third-party warehouses incinerate unsold goods rather than sell them to secondary retailers. So this isn't an accident. Actually, scratch that. It's not just intentional. It is contractual, systemic, brand equity protectionism.
And that leads us to a really critical concept: manufactured scarcity. You have to understand, value in the luxury market is not intrinsic to the leather. It's not in the flawless stitching. It is entirely constructed inside the consumer's mind through the strict difficulty of access. If your products are always available to absolutely everyone at any price, you have zero leverage.
Now let's look at the absolute extreme logical conclusion of this in Section 4, the Birkin asset model. Instead of overproducing and burning the excess, Hermes utilizes what we can call a scarcity engine. They simply refuse to meet demand. You literally cannot go to their website and buy a Birkin bag. You cannot walk into a boutique with cash and leave with one. No way. You must be allocated one, usually after years of intense relationship building with the store staff. Hermes absolutely has the factories and the resources to make more of these bags, but they deliberately choose not to. They keep supply permanently, artificially below demand.
And the result of this scarcity engine is almost unbelievable. This approach is so surgically effective that some Birkin variants literally outperform the S&P 500 and gold. Think about that for a second. When you buy a full-price Hermes bag, part of what you're really paying for is the knowledge that not everyone can get one. You pay a massive premium specifically because you know thousands of other people are being refused. You are literally paying for the existence of the waitlist itself. When we zoom out and look at luxury conglomerate LVMH's 2023 revenue of over 84 billion euros, we see the staggering financial scale of this strategy. That is 84 billion with a B. This entire industry is built upon this exact psychology of restriction and ruthless price discipline. They never discount, their prices consistently go up, and the secondary market is aggressively fought at every turn.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, the end of destruction.
So how did this all change? Well, the July 2018 Burberry Scandal proved that brand equity cannot survive being labeled an environmental hazard. The public outrage was absolutely massive. Within just 2 months, in September 2018, Burberry CEO Marco Gabbetti announced an immediate ban on the destruction of unsold stock. And it didn't stop there. The legal fallout was swift, resulting in the French government and eventually the European Union passing sweeping legal bans on the destruction of unsold textiles and luxury goods.
Now, luxury giants are being forced to adapt. They're adopting a circular luxury model. This means smaller production runs, developing supervised resale programs so they can maintain tight control over the secondary market, and repurposing waste. Burberry, for example, partnered with companies like Elvis and Crest to turn waste leather into brand new products. But hey, do not be mistaken. While they've stepped away from the bonfires, they remain fiercely, relentlessly protective of their pricing. The exact method of maintaining scarcity has evolved for sure, but the underlying strategy remains completely identical.
It all really comes down to this contrarian truth of the luxury sector. Abundance destroys premium positioning. Value is protected by setting strict, unrelenting limits on access. Because in this industry, sometimes saying no builds infinitely more value than saying yes.
Let's leave this investigation with a pretty provocative question. Does knowing the forensic mechanics behind these billion-dollar margins change how you view that exclusive shelf? Like, would you pay full price for a luxury brand knowing their historical strategy for all that unsold inventory? Let me know your thoughts down below. I really do read every single one. And hey, if this explainer shocked you, you are definitely going to want to stick around. Amazon started as a humble online bookstore run from a garage, and today, it practically controls the internet itself. Subscribe so you don't miss our next explainer on how Amazon became an absolute, unstoppable force.